Welcome to our podcast, Untangled Roots. Have you ever asked yourself the question, why am I here? Well, if you have, welcome to the starting point of the best part of your life. Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Cassie. Join us as we share our perspective from our personal journey of untangling from everything that we're not. Let's go, truth seekers. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome to episode
4.
Wow.
I really hope you didn't get me scratching my pits. You would. Anyway,
Okay.
Episode 4 of Untangled Roots. I'm Jamie, and this is Cass.
Welcome to our second video talking about shame.
I want to welcome you to our second video talking about shame.
And this one's a doozy for me. I didn't realize how heavy this one was going to hit, and a lot of it's going to be, we're kind of shoot from the hip type of people when we start to talk. We like it to be more authentic and just flow. So here we go. Let's just dive in. So shame is a word that makes me itch.
Oh, that might be why my armpits are itching. I'm like, this is uncomfortable. So last week we said, or in our last episode, we said that we were going to do a series on shame. And upon reflection and deep debriefs with our counsel, we don't want to do another one on shame.
So this is going to be our last video on shame for
So we're in the middle of our series. I'm getting to say that. We're in the middle of a series that it's the one of two. This is 2 of 2, actually.
Yeah.
2 of 2, because it's such an intense, heavy topic. But my heart, and I will say, our heart for creating this is, and just this podcast in general, Untangled Roots in general, for years I've had like this knowing in my heart that I've wanted to share these little nuggets that I've learned along my way. And so to me, that's what this platform is just our chance to share the gold nuggets that we've learned along our journeys. And what Cass is going to share. So last week I was able to share, Cass was like, hey, does anything stand out for you to share this week? And I was like, no, I feel pretty good from last week. Like, more stuff kind of comes of what is helpful and valuable along our stories and along our path. But I think today's your time. Today's your turn.
Okay,
your turn.
I'll dive in here. Okay,
for her, I don't want to let me finish my thought. For this platform, for you to share the golden nuggets and the golden insights that you have taken away from your past experience.
Yeah.
Is that?
So it feels real heavy, and just bear with me. So right out the gate, I'm going to tell you something. We're going to show up here, even if we're not feeling it, even if we're about to cry, anything. So full disclosure, today is the 4-year death anniversary for my dad. So 4 years ago, he suddenly passed away. And I feel like some of those emotions are kind of like hitting me right now. Like, it's just a super raw feeling. Cool, I don't want to cry. I can feel the tears like in my body. And as we go into this subject, it's like hey, I'm probably going to cry, just saying. And I actually love tears. That's actually my favorite emotion, is crying, because it's so cleansing. So we're just going to embrace it. Okay. So when I say shame is a word that makes me itch, what I mean is it is so uncomfortable, the emotion of shame, that a person wants to get out of the feeling as soon as possible. Like, that's the feeling. It's like, oh my word, this is miserable. I want to get out of this as soon as I can. Yeah. The problem is that shame has 2 partners, 2 partners in crime. Okay. We've got guilt and fear. And both of those emotions keep shame planted deeply. And it makes it very difficult for a person to really get out of it. And so when I reflect on my past, shame is one of the biggest things that have kept me stuck at different times. And that's why I really want to talk about it, because people don't even realize, I don't think, that they're even stuck by shame. Like, they don't even realize that that's what's keeping them stuck. Yeah. And so basically, there's so much shame around doing something wrong. Like, if you're, and when I say that, doing something wrong, what is something wrong, right? It's something that like you learned as a child or somebody told you that it's wrong, right? Or you stumble upon something and you do something and you feel it within yourself that it wasn't right? Like that's our moral code. And sometimes when we think something is quote unquote wrong, it's actually somebody else's belief that it's wrong. And we don't actually feel that it's wrong, but they think it's wrong, so it must be wrong.
Because
right?
they gave you the perspective of
right.
like, that was wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like from their perspective.
Right.
And they weren't able to hold like, oh, that doesn't have to be wrong, but they did. They
because it was wrong to them, it must be wrong for everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so that to me has been a huge part of my journey, is I've held a lot of shame around things that are wrong that I've labeled on myself. Like, oh, this must be wrong about me because, you know, so-and-so says it's wrong. Like if I have a desire to do something that's a little bit colorful, like, you know, I don't even know what kind of example, whatever, regardless of what it is.
I think that's going to be like contextual for each individual.
Right.
Like what you were raised in is completely different than what I was raised in.
Right.
So like what is bad looks different.
Yes, absolutely. So for me, basically, I held a lot of things like, oh, that's wrong about me. That's wrong about me. Like I'm messed up. I'm broken.
You took it directly to
I took it directly to self. I didn't bring it through a funnel of, oh, is this different for the individual me? It was like, oh, this is wrong, so this must be wrong for every single person, right? Mm. And so, for instance, this one's a silly one, but I'm just going to like use this as an example. So my dad, he had a lot of trauma surrounding swimming on Sunday, okay? So a lot of people say like, you know, the Sabbath day, keep the Sabbath day holy. You probably heard that, right? Mm. And so he took that very serious because his dad almost drowned on a Sunday while they were swimming at the river. And so he took that belief as, see, this is proof that it's wrong, right? Like, so that was like really settled into him. And so he told his kids, basically it's a sin to swim on Sunday. Like, you know, that's kind of extreme, but like that to him felt like it was so wrong that if you were to swim on Sunday, like there is a possibility that you could drown. Like you're not supposed to do this. Well, growing up, I thought that everybody thought that. I was like, oh, everybody thinks it's not okay.
No swim Sunday.
No swim Sunday. And so, you know, as I got a little older and some of my friends were like, you know, let's go swimming or whatever. And I was just so devastated.
On Sunday?
Yes, like on Sunday. Hey, like, let's go dip in the pool. It's hot, like,
right.
Whatever. Like, it was just at their house or whatever. But, like, I was, like, inside of me was such a turmoil of, like, oh, my word. Like, how could you guys do this? And they were so confused. They're like, why do you think it's wrong to swim on Sunday? Like, they thought I was a complete out to lunch. Anyway, so that just goes to show you that, to make my point, that in my dad's view, that was wrong. So he thought, okay, I need to teach my kids that's wrong. But was that wrong for everyone? I have come to a place where I don't feel like it's wrong to swim on Sunday. Like, if it's a hot day and I want to go take a dip, I don't feel any conviction that it's not okay. And so I had to arrive that place on myself. But until then, anytime that I would swim on Sunday, anytime that I would go against what was wrong, I would feel this massive shame that, oh my goodness, like, how am I going to bring... It wasn't even guilt at this point. It was like literally like, I have fundamentally broken a piece of my moral code, even though that's so silly. Like,
no, I was going to ask you about that. I was like, so where did shame... Like, what do you feel like you told yourself, or where did you identify it?
It was
basically the same shame.
It was basically like, I couldn't even face my dad. It was almost like I was so I was so ashamed of like, and it was almost like I was carrying his beliefs and like reflecting it back on him. Okay, this is kind of deep. Like, we're all a mirror, right? Like, we're mirroring everyone around us. And so, anyways, that was kind of a tangent, but I wanted you guys to get a little background on what I'm kind of talking about, on how I kind of have experienced it. And one thing that like kind of hit me like a lead balloon, if so to speak, like when I was kind of like going into this and like feeling it out, was it just like came to me that like, okay, that Jesus didn't come and die for us to then carry shame for years and years and years. I said that. Okay, let me like literally sit with that. Like, if you believe that Jesus came, I don't know, it just literally hit me like, and I think it was like speaking right to me. It might not be for anyone else.
You just drop that
yeah,
bomb.
I'm just
like trying to process what you're. I'm trying. Walk.
Okay.
Okay. Walk us back.
If you believe, like, this is just literally, this is kind of, I think, what helped pull me out of it and realize that. I mean, there's another way of saying it, and I might tell you guys in a minute, but basically, like, if you believe that Jesus came and died for you and for every wrong on this planet, then what good does it do to continue to carry that load that's already been paid for? It's almost like you're carrying around something that is already dealt with. Does that make sense? That's what I feel like shame is. Shame is like a load that's already been paid for. It's already been paid for you to set aside, but it's like somehow we carry it around as a reminder. It's like a really heavy reminder, like, nope, you were bad. You were a bad girl. You got to carry this, right? Does that make sense? It's kind of heavy. So another...
I'm like sitting here like, okay.
Okay. So...
Okay. She didn't tell me what she wanted to jump in and talk about. She's like, let's just click record and I'm just going to start.
Yeah, because here's the deal. Like, if we're just... Okay, here's... Oh, my word. I think I'm, like, channeling my dad right now.
Where are we going?
My dad would tell me... Okay. He'd say... Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. Should I back up a little bit?
Let's breathe. Maybe breathe. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if there's something to share... Good. I guess here's...
Go ahead.
Shall I ask a question?
Yeah, yes, please.
So, I guess for people who are listening, basically what you're starting to tap into is your spiritual beliefs and your spiritual, like, moral code, your inner compass, the foundation that you have built a lot of your life on, right? When you say the belief in Jesus being able to wash away those sins because you're carrying something that you don't need to carry, right? Am I interpreting that accurately? And I say that because there might be people who aren't, who are, for me, we can kind of go down the spiritual path, but for me, I had pain at the word Jesus, even though it wasn't. I have my own story in that whole process. I guess what I'm doing is I'm hoping we can create a space for the hearts, and how can we convey it to where the hearts who might have pain at the word Jesus, who might have, which that could be a whole nother podcast in of itself, and I don't want to dissuade from the shame part, but I'm wondering if there's something.
The reason why I came out and said that like that is because I have carried so much shame around speaking my truth. And, okay, wow, I feel the emotion now. Why, this is my question, and this is kind of my question I'm posing to myself. Why should I, and this is exactly what I'm saying, like, why should I, if I believe that, why should I carry shame around speaking my perspective and my truth out of fear, right? Here's the buddies, fear and guilt, right? Out of fear that someone else will not receive me, will not like me, will not see me, will not this, that, and the other, right? And it's the type of feeling where it's like, I just reached this point where it's like everyone else talks about how they believe and how they feel and how they see things. So why can't I? Like, that was kind of like the question that really came to me loudly. And it feels very bold, me just saying, just speaking out like that, because that's how it's been for my whole life. Was like, no, it's like this hushed feeling. It's like, no, your spiritual beliefs are here. And, you know, Jesus was painted in this light of like this image of who he was and like all this stuff, but I didn't actually know him for myself. I didn't actually know Jesus. I didn't even know. I grew up as a Christian. I didn't know we were going to go into beliefs here, but here we go. Let's just roll with it for a minute. I grew up Christian, and I can tell you right now that for 25 years of being a Christian, or what I thought was a Christian, and going to church every Sunday and, you know, doing the things that I thought was being a Christian, messing up, of course, right? Because all Christians are sinners and they mess up and everyone falls short of the glory of God. But basically, I didn't actually have a understanding or a knowing or a sureness within myself that I actually knew who Jesus was. I was living off of what someone else had told me, someone else had painted a picture of. And so I didn't have a personal experience until I was 25. So that's a lot of years to like craft this like belief.
Facade.
So right. So I'm kind of in a process of like kind of going into that shame and being like, why have I been ashamed? Why was I ashamed to speak out how I feel about life or how I view life or right? Like, it's like for years, I mean, I'm 35 this year and I'm just getting to the point where I feel free to talk about it. And I really am asking myself, why? Why was I carrying that shame? And what is that shame? And so as I speak of this here publicly, I still don't know. And so I guess I'm still in the process of untangling that. And this is like a really big untangle.
I think it's really interesting that like my heart, and I think that this might be something good in here, because my heart was for the people, or just people on my journey, like people who are more similar to my upbringing, where not even similar to upbringing. It's not really about upbringing, but I'm just saying my experience of my past and religion. And the only reason I pose that question back is because I know that there's people who know me who my realm of people grew up differently from your realm of people.
Right.
Completely differently.
We're so opposite.
We're so different. Our upbringings were so different.
Yeah.
And that's what I said in the beginning, like truly in that introduction, it's like I trust Cassie's heart through and through, regardless of what words she uses. Which when we first met, she would use the word Jesus. She would use the word. So all of these like really words that are ingrained in the Christian culture, very powerful words, very powerful. But I'm saying like forgiveness, and just the word Jesus. Like I'm saying with my upbringing, with the energy around Jesus, and I think that there is a lot of shame, and I think that I carry shame specifically around that as well. But my heart, I didn't register that question as shame. What I registered it as is, I guess, being aware. Or being aware of the part of me that it's like I want the heart to be heard so bad, but people hear and put meaning to different things from what they hear.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
So when I say, it's like when you say that declaration of truth that you said, and it's like this, like obviously there's certain people that you know that will click and they're gonna be like, absolutely.
But even if they don't click, they don't have to.
They don't have to, but I'm saying they will feed the heart. They will perceive, which I guess ultimately it doesn't really matter what people perceive.
It doesn't.
Which is probably the root of what we're getting at.
Exactly.
Is that no matter who is listening on the other side of whatever.
Yeah. Because
that it's their perspective that they get to choose to see our heart. They get to choose to see your heart. Do you see what I'm saying? In the deck, whatever is being said.
And I would really like to unpack why, like, as I've gotten to know Jesus, and when I say gotten to know Jesus, like read Jesus's story in the Bible and like actually like read about his actual mission and his journey, I have found that okay, it's so emotional. He has so much love. And the way that I thought of Jesus when I was little, it's like we would sing Jesus Loves Me, but like I was kind of scared of him, to be honest. I was like, oh, who is this guy that, I don't know, I was just intimidated, I guess. And yeah, I don't know, he's just such a gentle, now the way that I know Jesus, he's so gentle that it's like, why would I be ashamed? Why would I be ashamed to talk about him? Or like there's so much power in the name Jesus. And I think that's probably why shame attaches to it, because, you know, anytime that there's power or an ability for change and growth, there's going to be something that tries, a negative force trying to take it down. Like there's only light and dark. Like it's like, if there's light, then dark is going to come around it and, you know, whatever. If there's dark, the light tries to snuff it out. Like it's like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's one avenue, okay, that had really hit me personally. That just came to me, and it was a question to myself. I'm not really asking it to anyone else. If you want to bring it into yourself, that's fine. But the question was, if I believe that Jesus died for me and my wrong, then why do I allow myself to carry shame
for whatever you feel?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of like was like, well, I guess I don't have to. Like it's just like simple as that to me, if that's the belief system. But anyway, so moving on a little bit to like, we're talking about core identity here, like my upbringing was Christianity. And so that's definitely like, if you look at a core cylinder, like that's a huge part of my core. Right. And another part of our core when we're growing up is, you know, things that happen to us as we're molding and growing. And, if we don't have the right input and the right, I don't know if the right is the right word, but like if we don't have a positive influence for our changing body as we're growing older, like if we're going through changes, you know, as a child turns into a woman or a man, if we don't have reinforcement and positivity that, oh, your body's going to be changing, like, and help you embrace those changes, it can be pretty shocking to your system as you begin to change. And so here's a trigger warning.
Great.
I'm
still trying to recover from our last one. Can I just say that?
Okay, so we're trying to pack all this shame into one video, so I'm just going to get it out.
I know, but can I just say one thing?
Yeah. Ooh. Okay.
I feel like the last topic was very eye-opening to how certain personality types communicate and how I receive the information. So I'm just saying that like my brain has to like process when you make such a strong declarative statement and then you end it 8 minutes later with that's just my personal belief and opinion. I love you so much. That confusion that hits my brain like it's like I'm gonna need to process that.
Good.
That's
anyway, great.
That's all I needed to say.
That's what we're here for.
Do you see that you did that though?
Yeah.
No, you don't?
I don't know.
We'll rewatch it and I will make sure to point it out. I'll be like that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
you know what? Sometimes God puts nuggets in my head and they kind of rock the boat. And
it's rocked the boat. Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to rock your boat.
It rocked my boat.
Okay, that's all right.
Which is...
I still love you and we're right here.
Yeah, I know. I had to get that out before you be like, okay, we're moving on, because I was not.
Okay.
But now I can move on.
Okay.
So the last point on shame is where you were headed.
So the last point, and it is a trigger warning because this is where... I mean, the two places I have held shame as I was reflecting was honestly around Jesus and honestly around my sexuality. And the reason being is because
I feel like me too.
Okay, so she's resonating.
Me too.
Me too.
I don't know the depths that this will go, but I'm just
I don't necessarily need to go so deep here, unless some words come, but I just sometimes I feel like there's power in words and calling stuff out, and I've done so much healing that it's absolutely ridiculous. Like,
so then what would be a gentle way of what you're trying to say?
It's coming.
Okay. Pre-brewing.
Yeah. So, you know, if you've gone through any type of sexual abuse, I don't care what it is, like when you're little, when you're older, in your marriage, like regardless of where this is happening, I first want you to know that I hear you, I see you, and you are not alone. And there is resources. And in fact, we're going to post below a couple resources if anybody feels the need to reach out for some help. Because it's something that you shouldn't have to walk alone in. And it's scary. And especially when you're young. The first time I was sexually abused, I was 5 years old. And that happened in my own house. And by a neighbor. And the fact that could happen, and he was older than me by quite a few years. And the fact that could happen, my mom was folding laundry. I remember this specifically. She was folding laundry on the other side of the door. And she had no idea what was happening. And as a mom, that is so hard to just like even fathom.
Yeah.
Like you can't fathom that, you know? And like we were in there for probably 30 minutes and he had locked the door and everything. And like nobody came to check on us or anything. And I remember the way that he explained to me what he was going to do. Like my little brain, my little 5-year-old brain thought that it was normal. You know, like I thought that it was just, that was just how you play house, you know? And so I didn't know that at that point that it was not okay. I didn't know it was wrong. And it wasn't until someone came to knock on the door and he reacted very, you know, he knew it was wrong.
You saw his shame.
I saw his shame. And I know this now, but I didn't know it then, that I took his shame.
Ugh.
And I carried that with me for many years. Many years. And I almost wonder if, because that happened to me when I was so young, and I was still molding, and I was still growing, and I was still figuring out, like, what my moral code was, and what 5
years old is, like, personality level.
Right.
Like, we're studies that I was talking about, like, that's literally when the human brain is developing their own personality. Like, their own personality.
Yeah.
I've looked into that. That's very young.
Yeah. But I almost wonder if that kind of teed me up for believing, and this is kind of deep, but like almost like believing that type of interaction is basically what,
like, normal.
I don't know if it was normal, but like it almost like it's hard for me to find the words, but it almost turned me into a shame seeker, because my heart is so compassionate, and like it's almost like I wanted to take his shame away. I could tell that it was hurting him. He was what, 5 years older than me? He was probably 10. I don't know how old he was. But basically, like, I could tell that he was burdened by how he was acting. Even at that age, like, I remember, like, feeling like, oh, he's gonna get in trouble. Like, you know, like, I could feel that at that age. And when I say I became a shame seeker, that's kind of deep, because now I'm a truth seeker, people. Like, but like, I feel like throughout my life, like I almost was like seeking shame and seeking people that were carrying shame to try to help them, fix them, right? Like,
because
are you tracking me?
Because the part of you that is the heart for others got confused with love and shame.
Yes.
Basically, you're like, oh, I'm having compassion for this person's shame. That's really sad that he's feeling so much shame.
Right.
Without the obvious 5-year-old having, now I'm sure you've healed, or whatever, I'm sure you've gone into this, but it's like the 5-year-old didn't know that that's not okay.
Right.
I don't have to shame you for it, but I'm not going to accept that.
Right.
You know, but that so there was, because, do you feel like it was because there was a lack of, like, I always use the word self-agency. Like, in your awareness, you had to build that self-agency wall. And without that, there wasn't, is that what I'm understanding? Like,
yes.
Without that wall, you took on their shame because you were trying to still love. Right. Which the human heart is to love. The human heart is to naturally have compassion.
Right.
It's to naturally care about one another. That's literally, our species doesn't like loneliness for a very real reason.
Yes.
Like, we do not like being alone for that exact innate reason of not wanting to harm another human.
Yeah. Yes. And so that word self-agency is a whole nother topic, but that's a muscle that I actually, it's still like a baby muscle in me. And I'm starting to build that back up. And I feel like part of that is taking my voice back and letting, like, allowing my words to come out and allowing myself to say no to things. You know, it's all part of the journey. Like, even after healing for 10 years, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you have all these wires crossed from different traumas. And so, anyways, when I said I became a shame seeker, like, I have gone through a ton of sexual assaults, abuse throughout my childhood and my up into adulthood. And when I look at those situations, I see the pattern of, well, some of it was whenever they would say something like this, like, I'm thinking of this one in particular time where the guy told me, like, I had no idea that this was, like, it came out of nowhere, like, literally came out of nowhere. And I had no idea that, that he was going to say this to me. And he basically told me that if I don't let him do what he wants to do to me, that he was going to go and tell basically all my friends and the people at my church and, like, all this stuff, to where it made me feel, I don't know what that would be. What would that be? Like, the shame.
I mean,
it's like
manipulated. That's manipulation on his part. And
right.
And because what I feel, and I'm not a professional, so this is okay.
But I love your perspective.
What I feel is that because you didn't have that self-agency wall, and I'm not trying to diagnose, so
I know.
Really
no, you're fine. You're my.
But it was more like, because you didn't have that self-agency wall, you took that on as personal truth, which was, all of a sudden you agreed with his personal truth of what he was imposing on you. Do you see what I'm saying? You're like, oh yeah, I don't want the church to find out. I don't want the people in my life to find out. I don't know what. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
You took that on as,
Yes.
this is my son, this is what I feel happened. It's like you took on his energy as your truth and you acted from that.
Yes.
Because you didn't have that self-protection of, this is your mom, this is me, and this is you.
Yeah, there was none of that. Because it was like the partner of shame, fear comes in. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I can't, like how do I get out of this situation?
You're either acting from shame or you're acting from fear.
Yeah. And so basically, like, I would freeze, you know, fight or flight or freeze or whatever they call it. I would freeze. And yeah, as I've gone through healing from these different situations, to be honest, sometimes there's like some massive anger that comes up where I just want to punch the person in the face. That felt good to say.
Dude. I love Cass, and I'm very, very fortunate that I have not had the types of experiences that this human being has gone through. And yeah, like she said, anyone who has gone through this, you're not going to hear me claim to know that I'm a professional, but Cassie has lived it. So to a large degree, who am I to tell her to not talk about this on a podcast? You know, on something that we're creating.
Like,
it's like a shame.
yeah, I feel like it's such a deep topic, but for some reason, publicly talking about stuff, there's so much power in owning it. And I just,
I actually was going to share a quote with you that I saw yesterday where it was exactly talking about this. It was saying that, that when we own our own narrative over our life, we immediately bring the power back to ourselves, so that way they don't have the power over our story.
Yeah.
Like when we own that narrative.
I'm already feeling good.
What you're saying. like when you own the narrative.
As the sun's beaming
I know,
in.
that was so cool. But like there's like when you own the narrative, and I love that. Because I'll speak for myself, but because when I own my own story, I am owning the narrative, so no one else can control it, no one else can say over it, no one else can add their commentary. It's like in myself, if I'm owning that story, it's my truth, this is my experience, This is my story. And then I'm like, when you own that, it was like owning that narrative and expressing it, you are the one who's in control of what is coming out. Do you see what I'm saying? Like your experience of that story when we own it.
Absolutely. And the coolest part is that the reason why I felt like just talking about some of these deeper things is because I've experienced shame on such a deep level to the point where I believed I was shame. Like I was so ashamed of myself. I would just walk around like so ashamed. And it's like, that is no way to live. That is horrible. Yeah. Like I can't even you can't live in that state. Like you just can't.
That's not living. I would say that's fight or flight, or living from emotion. Like living in the emotion of.
Right. So I can say that now I have, I feel like this is just another layer. You know, there's onions. Like I've already gone through a process of forgiving these people and, you know, letting go of that aspect of it. And now by being able to talk about it and like just shed light to it, it like brings power that maybe we can like band together as women or just people and just be able to like come to arrive at a place of self-agency, like you're saying, to where if something unfortunate happens like that, where there's an attack or some sort of unfortunate violation happens, that we could be in a place where
to bounce back quicker with resources and like, because you own your story,
right?
It's happened to someone else isn't known that, hey, this is not right. I can seek help to get help, is what you're saying, the band aid together.
Yes. And to not be ashamed to share it and tell somebody. You don't have to tell it publicly. You don't have to say what happened. You don't have to relive the trauma. Wow, that light is bright. you don't have to relive it, but just the power of just acknowledging that it happened and allowing yourself to get out of the trauma state is huge. It just is. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's honestly a huge piece that kept me so ashamed of myself, and that really tied into different issues. I mean, I remember 8th grade up into high school. Oh my word. Like, so much body shame. Just like so much shame in just my body. And it's like, you know, it's like, it's easy just to say like, oh, well, we should just be grateful.
Full of great.
We should just be grateful for our bodies. But all those traumas and the, you know, tape recorders that I've listened to kind of basically formed me into believing that I wasn't worth a crap. If we're just completely real. And so...
And that's just not true.
That's just not true.
That's just not true.
And so now, obviously, I kind of dove into the... Right.
Just speaking truth, that if anyone's carrying that lie, Jamie, talking to myself too, it's not true. I'm looking at myself in this thing. It's not true.
Yeah. And the truth of it is, if we're just going to completely just come to the mere truth of it, yes, I just dove into a pocket of the past. But I want to be clear that I don't live there. I have made a conscious choice to not live there. I don't live in the past. I can dip in and I can go back into the emotion, as you can see that I'm like feeling it.
You've done a lot of work.
Because I've done a lot of work, I don't have to live there anymore. But when I can dive into it, I can still feel. Those emotions kind of come up again, and I can feel what it felt like and all the things. But I've made conscious choice to let go of that shame and to try to live in the present. And I can go in further on how I did that on a different episode. But basically, like, I just wanted to like encourage you guys that you don't have to carry this shame backpack around. Like, I feel like there's so many people in this world carrying these backpacks just full of shame. Yeah. And some of it's not even theirs.
I know, it's probably...
None of it's theirs, actually.
Not theirs, and
it doesn't do us any good.
Yeah. One thing came, because the only thing that I knew about what I was going to share from this podcast was she was like, you're just very gentle. You're very gentle, and share about your perspective on being gentle. And what came was, like, it's so heavy. Like, the shame is like such a heaviness, but like... It makes me think of, regardless of people's personal perspectives and beliefs on spirituality and all that, even though we dug into that on this one. But like, regardless, there's an irrefutable truth of like, when I cut my hand, and I say this a lot, like when I cut my hand, I know the cells in my body, healthy, well cells, I'll say, want to reform. They want to mend. They want to heal. I'm not cut, and I carry this cut for the rest of my life. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's a natural, innate, organic energy to this world that tells the cells, that programs my cells to heal. And like, that is a foundation for me of like, that's kind of like, I kind of see that as like love, like the flow of life, the natural order of life, where we are born, we get older, and we die, and we like return in like that cycle. Do you see what I'm saying? There's an energy behind the cycle. There's an energy that tells the little, Wayne Dyer or whatever, he talks about, like, there's a little walnut, and how does that walnut know that it's going to be planted and grow into a seed, grow into a tree, a walnut tree? And so anyway, so that natural energy, that's the flow of life, is my point. Why I wanted to bring that up is because that flow is what I really want I want to encourage people to get in touch with that part of themselves, because that's been huge to like, and like what you're doing, it's like you're getting in touch with the part of yourself that carried the shame. Because if something's heavy, I try to think of like, okay, does that actually align with the energy that when I'm cut, I heal? Because if I'm carrying this backpack and I'm having to like haul it around, like, I'm talking hauling. And it manifests in multiple ways in people's lives. It manifests as stuff, manifests as like physical weight, manifests as like weight in life, like whatever people can carry. Anyway, I'm just saying like that might be, I guess what I'm saying is be with professional help, but like in knowing in yourself that that's my reasoning, that's my theory for how I know that it's not true. Because just like the hand, when it's cut, it heals. That's what we're able to feel, is to resolve from heaviness into that lighter spirit, lighter heart, lighter experience of life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And just like someone should go around saying, my favorite color is blue, right? Like, I don't think anybody would feel shame over speaking that truth, right? Because that's such a very universal truth. A lot of people like blue. But if it's controversial and it has the like chance that one of the partners of shame, right, fear or guilt, could come alongside, it's almost like, no, let's not say that, right? Like we get like really afraid, like the fear, like don't say Jesus, don't you say it, because somebody might not like him, right?
That's
like
how we met, Cass. That was literally.
Oh, that's the next episode. So, I am here to declare that I will speak my truth, and I encourage you to do the same.
And I welcome your truth.
Yeah. So, anyways,
and my own at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's
we don't need to carry truth.
Yeah,
we don't
that's
need
the
to carry
ultimate
shame.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately the dance that we're all learning to do in this world, and to me that's what loving someone is. It's like, oh, I don't have to change your perspective just in order to make me feel comfortable,
right,
with you.
Yeah.
You know. Well, thank you for sharing. I do want to say that for diving in super deep.
That was so deep.
So
okay.
Okay. So shame. We feel like a bow on shame.
Yeah. We feel like we tied the bow.
Cool.
We're done now. We're going to move on.
That was a short series.
Okay.
But valuable.
Yeah. So this was a longer episode, but we got it done. And thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. If you've made it this far, kudos to you.
Dude.
And
for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.